The Oak Island treasure hunt has taken many surprising turns over the years, but what was recently discovered at Smith's Cove is unlike anything the team had ever seen before. For generations, people had dreamed about uncovering real proof that treasure was hidden beneath the island. Countless diggers, researchers, and adventurers had risked everything, but the mystery seemed to always stay one step ahead. That changed the moment Rick and Marty Lagina stood in silence, staring at the shimmering reflection of gold in the waters of Smith Cove. The glimmer wasn't a trick of the light. It was real. Tiny traces of gold sparkled, and with that discovery, the centuries-old legend was no longer just a story. It was becoming reality. The excitement in that moment was electric. After so many years of near misses, dead ends, and endless obstacles, the team finally had something tangible. The discovery did more than ignite hope. It set the entire island buzzing with anticipation. If gold traces were showing in the water, then what else lay buried deeper down? It was as if the island itself had opened a small window into its secrets, teasing the hunters with a glimpse of what was to come. But Smith Cove was not finished giving up its mysteries. Alongside the golden traces, the team stumbled upon something just as astonishing, a handmade wooden ladder. It was submerged, stretching down into the darkness of a water-filled tunnel. The sight of it sent chills through the group. A ladder meant one thing: someone had been here before. Generations earlier, hands had carved that wood, lowered it into place, and climbed those very steps into the depths below. The question was who? And how far had they gone? The wooden ladder was more than just a piece of timber. It was proof that Oak Island had been worked on by earlier treasure seekers, or perhaps by the very people who first hid the treasure centuries ago. And if they had built tunnels and ladders, it meant this was not just a natural formation. It was deliberate, man-made, and planned with purpose. The implications were enormous. The team knew they couldn't stop there. Mapping crews expanded the search zone, determined to find out where the tunnel might lead. Every tree, every rock, every stretch of coastline suddenly felt like it could hide a clue. The sense of possibility was everywhere. What had once been just stories and legends whispered in books and local lore now seemed within reach. Gold traces, man-made tunnels, wooden ladders. This was no longer just a dream. But with discovery comes danger. The legend of Oak Island has always carried a shadow. Local folklore insists that the treasure will not reveal itself until 7 lives have been lost in the search. Already 6 lives had been claimed over the centuries by collapses, accidents, and drownings. That meant only 1 more was needed to fulfill the so-called curse. The thought weighed heavily on the crew. They were thrilled by the progress, but every step forward reminded them of the risk they carried. Would they be the ones to break the curse, or would someone else's life be added to the toll before the treasure was fully revealed? Still, the team pressed on. The excitement was too strong, the mystery too compelling to walk away. Marty's voice echoed through the worksite as he asked the question everyone had been waiting for. Is it time to bring in the drilling rig? The answer came back as a chorus of agreement. Yes, the moment had arrived. Guided by hydrogeologist Dr. Ian Spooner and geoscientist Dr. Michelle, the team prepared to drill deeper into the earth, focusing their attention on a promising area west of the garden shaft. They nicknamed the zone the Blob, a curious anomaly that stood out in their data. Closer testing narrowed it down even further to an area they called the Baby Blob, a compact section that seemed to be hiding something extraordinary. The plan was simple but thrilling. If the map was correct, a tunnel could be waiting about 95 feet below the surface. That tunnel might be the very one leading to the treasure vault. Their target, borehole DN11.5. As historian Charles Barkhouse took charge of the drilling, Marty prepared to examine the garden shaft itself. The shaft had been cleared, pumped out, and shored up, making it safer to descend. Armed with a flashlight, Marty climbed down into its damp, echoing depths. His beam swept across the walls until it landed once again on the preserved wooden ladder. There it was, the same handmade ladder they had first spotted. Its survival across centuries was remarkable, and it stood as undeniable proof that earlier seekers had been working this exact site. Had they left more clues? Had they left behind the very treasure itself? Above ground, the drill whirred into motion, biting through soil and rock layer by layer. The crew stood tense, watching as the machine dug into the earth between 78 and 88 feet. Every groan of the metal, every rotation of the bit raised their anticipation. Then, suddenly, the noise changed. A harsh screech rang out, cutting through the air. The drill had struck something unusual. Operations were halted immediately. Gauges were checked. The team leaned in to listen to the report. The drill had punched into a void, a hollow pocket roughly 1.5 feet wide at 90 feet deep. The revelation froze everyone in place. Was it just a natural cavity, or was it a tunnel carved by human hands? The difference would mean everything. Charles wasted no time. He contacted the Lagina brothers to report the discovery. Rick, electrified by the news, rushed straight to the site. When he arrived, the drill operator explained how the bit had hit resistance and then broken into an open space below. This void lined up perfectly with previous borehole data, forming a pattern that was becoming impossible to ignore. To investigate further, Marty ordered a core sample. The crew watched in silence as the sample was pulled up from the depths. Everyone leaned in as the core was opened. Inside were chunks of old wood. The men exchanged wide-eyed glances. Could this wood be the remnants of a centuries-old treasure chest? Had they just brushed against the very container that once held the gold? The wood fragments were quickly sent for analysis. Waiting for the results was agonizing. But soon, the team gathered at the Oak Island Interpretive Center to meet with metal archaeologist Emma Culligan. When she presented the findings, the room fell silent. The wood sample contained measurable traces of gold. Real gold. Not theory, not rumor, scientific proof. The effect was immediate. This wasn't a legend anymore. They were on the trail of something genuine, something extraordinary. The discovery reignited the crew's determination, filling them with fresh energy. Spirits soared and plans accelerated. Drilling resumed at the garden shaft, and 12 more boreholes were scheduled in hopes of spotting more signs of tunnels, structures, or treasure chests. Meanwhile, Rick and team member Peter Fornetti turned their attention to Lot 26. There, they stumbled upon an ancient stone wall. It was no ordinary wall. Its construction looked deliberate, and its placement suggested purpose. Could it be another key piece in the Oak Island puzzle? Every find added weight to the theory that the island had been heavily engineered in the past. Someone had built walls, shafts, ladders, and tunnels with great effort. The question remained, why? The discoveries didn't stop there. The team also revisited the legacy of Fred Nolan, the respected surveyor who had spent decades studying Oak Island. Nolan's Cross, a massive stone formation shaped like a perfect cross, remained one of the most mysterious landmarks on the island. His son, Tom Nolan, stepped in to help, bringing with him his father's old notes, maps, and sketches. Among these were references to an odd well filled with broken pottery and an arrangement of stones known as the quadrilateral. None of it looked natural. Could these be more markers left by whoever hid the treasure? Each clue seemed to weave the story tighter. The gold traces, the wooden ladder, the stone walls, the cross, and the quadrilateral. It all pointed towards something much bigger than just a hidden chest of coins. Some believed these were signs of the Knights Templar, a powerful medieval order that might have carried sacred relics to Oak Island centuries ago. If that theory was true, then the treasure was not just gold and jewels, but potentially the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, or other priceless relics that could rewrite history. The legend grew heavier as the discoveries piled up. The weight of the curse loomed over every dig. 6 men had already lost their lives on Oak Island, and if the curse was real, only one more stood between the crew and revelation. Yet the Lagina brothers and their team refused to turn back. For them, this was no longer only about wealth. It was about solving a mystery that had haunted explorers for over 2 centuries. Day by day, hole by hole, artifact by artifact, the mystery of Oak Island seemed to unravel, even as it grew deeper. With every rotation of the drill and every scoop of soil, the crew stood closer to the truth. Gold was no longer just a dream. It was here. The question now was how much of it lay hidden, and how long the island would allow its secrets to remain buried. The drilling at the garden shaft continued as the team worked tirelessly, pushing through layer after layer of soil, rock, and waterlogged earth. Each new foot they descended brought both hope and fear. Hope because the deeper they went, the stronger the chance of uncovering tunnels, chambers, or even treasure. Fear because Oak Island has always been unpredictable, and danger has claimed lives in the past. But the Lagina brothers were not about to stop. They had come too far, invested too much, and believed strongly enough that the island was hiding something of great value. As the drilling pushed deeper, geologists on site studied the samples carefully. Every core that came out of the ground was sliced open, checked, and analyzed. Sometimes it was nothing more than clay and stone. Other times, fragments of wood or odd discoloration suggested something more meaningful. When the team pulled out wood at depths where no natural trees could have reached, they knew without a doubt that people had been there before. That alone was proof that Oak Island still had secrets left to tell. The idea of man-made tunnels began to make more and more sense. How else could wood end up nearly 90 feet below the surface, perfectly preserved in pockets of wet clay? These weren't random pieces. They were straight, carved, and clearly shaped by human hands. The thought that earlier treasure seekers, or perhaps even the original builders, had left behind parts of their structures sent a thrill through the group. Every discovery, even something as small as a piece of old timber, pushed the mystery forward. The drilling crew mapped the location of each find, marking where tunnels might intersect, or where hidden chambers could still exist. This careful work turned the land beneath Oak Island into a living puzzle, slowly revealing its shape. The baby blob, the small but promising zone the team had identified, kept offering clues that they were in the right place. Meanwhile, above ground, Rick and Marty couldn't help but think about the larger picture. Oak Island wasn't just about treasure. It was about history, layers upon layers of it. Every artifact tied them to people who had come before, explorers, workers, maybe even ancient knights. Theories about the Knights Templar continued to swirl among the team and the researchers who supported them. After all, what better place to hide relics of immense importance than a remote island in Nova Scotia, protected by complex traps and mysterious flood tunnels? Back at Lot 26, attention turned once again to the strange stone wall discovered there. Unlike natural rock formations, this wall had structure. It was deliberate, carefully built, and aligned in ways that suggested it was part of a larger construction. But what was its purpose? Was it part of a foundation for buildings that had long since vanished? Or was it an outer marker, a clue placed centuries ago to point future seekers in the right direction? Tom Nolan, bringing forward his father Fred Nolan's research, reminded the team that Oak Island's mysteries weren't just underground. The surface itself was full of clues.
Strange and deliberate markings. Nolan's Cross, a massive formation of boulders laid out in the exact shape of a Christian cross, was perhaps the clearest example. Some believed it was nothing more than coincidence, while others argued that it was a direct link to the Templars, who were known to leave behind hidden symbols in their quests to guard treasure and relics. The combination of these surface clues with the underground evidence created a powerful story. Gold traces in the water, wooden tunnels deep below ground, mysterious crosses and stone formations above it. All of it tied together into a mystery that seemed to grow deeper every time one question was answered. The team also remembered the strange collapse of the Money Pit back in 1861. That event, when wooden beams suddenly gave way and an entire structure vanished into the earth, had haunted every treasure hunter since. Some believed it was proof that there were massive chambers beneath the island, large enough to swallow wooden supports whole. Others argued it was the work of flood tunnels, intentionally designed to collapse and protect whatever was hidden below. For Rick and Marty, this was more motivation. If such structures existed, then they had to keep pushing forward, no matter the danger. Even more fascinating was the discovery of measurable traces of gold in the water samples around Smith's Cove and the Money Pit area. This wasn't speculation, it was scientific fact. Gold had dissolved into the water, proof that somewhere nearby there was a source. Whether it was coins, jewelry, or some other treasure, the island was bleeding out tiny hints of it. The team's excitement grew, and so did their determination. When the core sample that revealed traces of gold inside wood fragments was presented by Emma Culligan, it became one of the most important breakthroughs of the entire search. This wasn't random contamination. This was physical evidence that gold had once been in direct contact with those wooden pieces. Could it have been from a chest that leaked or broke apart? Or perhaps from construction materials used to hide a vault? The possibilities filled the team with energy and fire to keep digging. Every season on Oak Island seemed to bring new frustrations, but also new breakthroughs. The discovery of crosses, coins, and old tools all hinted at long-hidden stories waiting to be uncovered. Each artifact seemed to suggest not just treasure, but purpose, deliberate acts by people with a mission. Whether it was to hide wealth, to protect sacred relics, or to keep secrets buried, someone had gone to extraordinary lengths on Oak Island. And yet, with every step forward, the island seemed to fight back. Flooding, collapses, and unexplained voids made the digging treacherous. This was why the partnership with the Duma Mining Company was so important. With their expertise, the team could stabilize the shafts and protect themselves from sudden cave-ins or floods. When strange water began rushing into the shafts from inland, the team realized it could be proof of the legendary flood tunnels that had been spoken about for generations. If these tunnels were real, then they had been built with incredible skill to protect whatever lay at the heart of Oak Island. Reinforcing the shafts with concrete was a bold move, but it gave the team the chance to go deeper than ever before. It was a waiting game while the reinforcements set, but the anticipation grew each day. Everyone on the island knew that they were closer than anyone had ever been in over 200 years. The legend of Oak Island wasn't just about gold. It was about something much bigger. Theories about the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, and other sacred relics continued to capture imaginations. If even a fraction of those stories were true, the discovery would change history forever. The Lagina brothers understood this. Their search was no longer just about riches. It was about uncovering a hidden chapter of the world's story, one that had been buried beneath layers of soil, stone, and secrecy for centuries. Even the smallest discoveries mattered. A single stone shot suggested weapons. A single coin suggested travel and trade. Each clue built a timeline, a picture of who had been there, when, and why. The more they found, the more they realized Oak Island was not just an isolated mystery. It was part of a much larger story of exploration, secrecy, and history itself. As they prepared to dig deeper into the baby blob, the team stood at the edge of history. Could they finally solve the riddle that had haunted explorers for over 225 years? Or would Oak Island claim yet another generation of seekers? The risk was real, but so was the determination. For Rick,